All right, Powerhouse panel is back with us. They've been there as well. We start with attorney, Republican strategist, Turning Point USA contributor Aaron Elmore. Mark Halperin is here. He's not been there.
He has not been
Project
there.
21 National Advisory Board member Christopher Arps has been there. Chris, I used to work in Kansas City. I did it there many times. I know you're in St. Louis. Mark, why do you not like this, Mark? Tell me about that.
Do you know what I heard Rachel say right before the show started?
No.
She said, "I can't believe it's almost Friday."
I did not say that.
I know. Did you say that?
I never said that. And I keep
Maybe it
my
was somebody
mic
else.
off until the show starts.
I heard it in my earpiece.
Yeah. It is.
Guess what? The days just tick along. It's going to happen.
I know.
I
hate
used
it.
to it.
And when I do it, I will do it again, Chris. And I hate myself when I do it. Go ahead.
You know what? I noticed one of our local morning anchors in that clip.
There was one of
Was there?
my own station was in it.
Yeah, I saw somebody that I knew too. I'm not going to say because we're still friends on social. Yeah, I hate that. All right, something that happened yesterday that I was keeping my eyes on was this special election in the 1st Congressional District in New Mexico. The Democrat did win. Melanie Stansberry, she won by a pretty good percentage. The numbers are just coming in right now. 90% of precincts are reporting she won by about 24% of the vote. That could change. But this was an extremely blue district. At the presidential level, Democrats have won it dating back to Al Gore in 2000. But people were looking at this, Mark, particularly as a possible bellwether for 2022. It's still very early. But what does this tell us about the electorate's mood as we ebb closer to the midterms?
Well, look, crime was a big issue in this race, and part of why Republicans were attracted to this as a potential bellwether for next year was because that's an issue Republicans definitely want to be talking about. Democrats have been on somewhat of the defensive. It wasn't close. The Republicans had a decent candidate, but they didn't spend money there. So I don't think, I always try to, not overplay these individual races as bellwethers, but this shows that Democrats are not in some crisis right now over crime or anything else. In a heavy Democratic district, they won overwhelmingly.
Yep. Go ahead. I just heard somebody. Chris?
Oh, sorry. I was sitting here and disagree. What I was going to say is here in Philadelphia, our district attorney, who is a George Soros-funded, extremely liberal, pro-criminal district attorney, was reelected with 63% of the vote.
Right.
So I don't think that crime is really an issue that Democrats have to necessarily worry about, because these candidates who have destroyed cities, who are harming states, who are advocating for defunding the police, that are watching people get murdered in their backyards, there's really no implications and there's really no problem, so to speak, so far. So I think that the Republicans really have to step up in these districts and start getting the word out about what's actually going on, because the votes aren't changing.
Yeah, I was curious. It's a border state, New Mexico. I mean, Albuquerque, let's be honest, it's the bluest part of that state by far. But it's a border state. The crisis is very real. It affects those 4 border states more than the other states, in a very real way. And I thought this might be, a sign of things to come. But the Democrats will pick up 1 seat in the House. They've got a little bit more to their majority now, 220 to 211. There are still 4 vacant seats that will be filled between now and 2022. Yesterday, we found out that the New York Times had interviewed the former president, Barack Obama, and he had something that I think surprised a lot of people when he talked about the current president, his former vice president, Joe Biden. Take a listen.
I think that what we're seeing now as Joe Biden and the administration are essentially finishing the job. And I think it'll be an interesting test. 90% of the folks who were there in my administration. They are continuing and building on the policies we talked about, whether it's the Affordable Care Act or our climate change agenda and the Paris Peace Accords, and figuring out how do we improve the ladders to mobility through things like community colleges.
Chris, I would cut it a little bit shorter, but conservatives, Republican candidates out there listening right now, you don't even have to hire an advertising firm. Just play that as your television spot right there.
Exactly. And I think when most Republicans heard that interview, I think they were saying, duh. I mean, you look at this administration, as the former president said, 90% of the people are from the Barack Obama administration. So this is like really no surprise.
Yeah.
Going back to the New Mexico thing for a while, I think the Democrats were the ones that were trying to make this a bellwether. I mean, Biden won the state by 23 points. This woman won by 24 points. I think the real bellwether is going to be the Virginia governor's race, and cheap plug here. I was able to interview for my podcast, Water Cooler Politics with Chris Arps, the Lieutenant Governor Winsome Sears and the governor candidate Glenn Youngkin. So Virginia is the real bellwether. That's
going to be the canary in the coal mine. By the way, that's a great podcast. I've been on your look forward to coming on your show, and I've been on your radio show. But that's good stuff out there in the Midwest. Chris, Mark, what back to the Obama thing. First of all, this didn't surprise me. I didn't think we'd hear that during the campaign. But what does this mean moving forward and for the party and the Democrats? I mean, they can't. This means that the Obama administration must have incredible control over what's going on in the Biden administration.
It's a great interview. I recommend it. It's very revealing about Barack Obama's mindset regarding the current Democratic Party. And particularly on social issues and these big spending programs. And I think this is all going to come to a head in the next couple of months. We're going to see if the country wants this kind of very liberal presidency or whether the country would like a corrective on it. And that Virginia governor's race will be one of the best indications we get this year of the mood and the possibility that this administration, even with their narrow margins in Congress, can try to transform the country.
Aaron, do you agree with that? I think that the Obama administration has been leapfrogged by the Biden administration as far as progressive policies go.
I think they've really taken it to the higher level here. But what's scary about that is he didn't talk about any of his real accomplishments, whether it's Benghazi or the Fast and the Furious or taking pallets of cash to Iran. Those are the things that Barack Obama is known for within the conservative circles. And by the way, he spoke of the Affordable Care Act. Everyone knows that there's nothing affordable about that horrible health care plan. He did absolutely nothing to advance the American people in 8 years other than raise their taxes and use the IRS as a weapon. Honestly, this has become a progressive agenda that's totally leapfrogged Barack Obama. And now we're just almost on a train that can't be stopped unless we do something about things like the border and kids getting back in school.
Yeah.
And lowering taxes and dealing with inflation, because we have serious problems on our hands that Barack Obama, I don't think, even anticipated.
Mark Halperin, they're trying to pass a new voting law in Texas, and the spin, my friend, the spin is already happening. Listen to former Congressman, former presidential candidate, former Senate candidate Beto O'Rourke speaking about it.
The poll tax 100 years ago was somewhat innocuous sounding. The literacy test, the counting the number of jelly beans in a jar, but in every instance they were used to try to stop Black Texans and African Americans throughout the former Confederacy from being able to use their rights to vote. And in that same way, ending souls to the polls and closing polling places in predominantly African American neighborhoods is doing the exact same thing in 2021.
All right, Mark, Chris, then we got to scoot on this, but just like they did in Georgia and many other states, the left, by the way, is now comparing what these states are doing to Jim Crow era laws, which were despicable at the time. But in Texas, they are literally just undoing the temporary, keyword temporary measures that were put into place so people could vote during the pandemic. In many ways, this law is expanding people's ability to vote.
There are places where it expands the vote. There are places where it leaves the law in a place that's better for voting access than Delaware and other blue states.
Right. Joe Biden's home state.
There are a few provisions in this law that seem, whatever their intent, to limit the ability of folks to vote in a way that's unnecessary. So it's not Jim Crow, but it's not all a bill that just restores the status quo from before the pandemic.
Yeah, but what it is eliminating is 24-hour voting. Chris, final thought, and drive-through voting. Those two measures specifically were put into place because people were dying of a deadly pandemic, and they wanted people to be able to vote.
Yeah, and one of the other controversial aspects of this bill is that Sunday voting is not supposed to start until 1 o'clock or afterwards. You know, I had a birthday on Sunday. I've been an African American for 55 years, and I can tell you this: there is not an African American church in this country that ends before 1 o'clock. African American church services are known to be notoriously long, so this not being able to start until 1 is a red herring.
Chris, happy birthday, my friend.
Thank you.
Glad to hear that.
29.
That's what my grandmother, she passed away, she was 93. She used to say 39 and holding. She was always just 39 and holding. All right, panel, we'll see you guys at the top of the hour. Great stuff, as always.